sort of the age of AI that we're in.
It's not enough to get the instruction. Corporates shouldn't be confused with professional and discipline.
How do you actually get that consistency?
Well,
So Charles, thank you so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to come and have a conversation with me today. I really appreciate it.
well, thank you for inviting me along. Thank you very much indeed. It's great to be here.
Good. And so how long have we known each other now?
I'm going to guess 10 years.
10 years.
I think 10 years.
Okay, great. And so for those people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and I guess how you got to be where you are.
So I am 60 years of age. I'm a father of 5 children, a grandfather of 2.
Okay.
I started my estate agency career at 21, working with a firm called Howard, Son and Gooch, who were primarily based down in Buckinghamshire. And they got bought out by a travel company called Hogg Robinson, which some people might remember. No relation at all. Anyway, they were on an acquisition, just like the Prue were and Lloyds were and all that lot. So I started with Howard, Son and Gooch in their little Thatcham office, which is a little suburb, a little town just outside of Newbury in Berkshire.
So that your part of the world is the Newbury area. And how many branches does Jones Robinson have now?
So we have 6 branches, one in Oxfordshire, Wiltshire, and Berkshire.
When we go back to your time, you were a regional director for Chancellors as well.
I was.
Yes,
I was.
And then you moved to Countrywide and you were there for a couple of years.
Yeah, so I moved to Countrywide, I think 95, if memory serves me correctly. Yeah, absolutely. So with Chancellors, I moved around. I was in Oxford. I ran a region for them in Oxford, then in Surrey, down in Elmbridge. And from there, I went to, it was when Countrywide bought the nationwide estate agency network for £1. It was a big deal. I don't know if you remember that. And they were splitting that business up into subsidiaries, and I was the MD for Bells, Bairstow Eves, London South. So everything in London south of the river was my responsibility.
So how many branches was that roughly?
So it started off originally, I think, again, if memory serves, with about 15 or 16, and then we were gifted some Man & Co branches.
Right.
And that took it up to about 32 or something like that.
Okay.
At the end, yeah.
So when you think about that scale, relatively young age at 1999?
29.
29?
When I got the MD's job.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 29 years old, you're running, 30 plus branches.
Well, 16
to begin with,
yeah.
And then it gradually grew?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're running this really big, complicated business. What were the big lessons that you took from that?
So when I was at Chancellors and I was running Oxford essentially for them, and then I was given the task of revitalising their Surrey business, which was in free fall, and I held that on a pedestal. And oh my God, I'm going to Surrey. This is the one. What am I going to be able to teach them? And I held off, because I wanted to learn and understand, but also I was a bit frightened about, who do I think I am going in there and telling them how they should be doing it? I learned that I wasted 6 months just not grabbing it by the throat and getting on with it. So as soon as I went into Bairstow London South, I had no hesitation. I ripped out all the computers. Yep. Believe that now. Yep. But I ripped out all the computers, put them back into card indexing on the box. I can tell you why later. And set about making them profitable. But what was difficult, what I found incredibly difficult, what stressed me out so much was the fact that, for me, black and white young man, well, we've got a deal here, haven't we? You come to work, I pay you a salary, and you do the job the way I want the job done. Yep. And if half of them were doing it, I was really, really lucky. And I just couldn't get my head around that. That was because it was so much bigger. It was very hard to get the culture right.
Yeah. And culture's
if not impossible.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I think this is the thing, is that I didn't operate at the scale that you operated at as a regional director. I've started with 6 offices when I was 24 years old.
Oh, wow. So
and then gradually worked my way up to 11 by the time I left in 2008. And again, it was hugely instructive in terms of the mistakes of how do you get 50, 100 people in my case to follow one process and get it right. And I've sort of been spending the rest of my life trying to perfect that, really, is how do you actually get that consistency. Let me just take you back to the Surrey example, if that's okay, which you gave, where you're working for chancellors. And you mentioned that you sort of held off, not diving in and making changes. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, well, because I felt like I was a bit of an imposter. So I've been brought up in this business whereby Oxfordshire was doing pretty well. It was a pretty good business, but Surrey was way out there. And of course, as a young person in the business, you put these scenarios, these businesses rather, on pedestals, and you look up to them. And I felt like I was a bit of an imposter. Charlie boy going down to Surrey. Whoa, what does he know? And it felt a bit like that. So,
and why did you reflect back on that? That if you had your time again, you might have done that differently.
Why did I reflect?
Yeah.
Because now, 60 years of age, I can fall back on my experiences, and I understand that you have to do what you know is right, and what feels right in your gut and in your head, and you have to follow that conviction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that somebody else has got 30 years more experience from than you or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting concept as well, how many years experience people have got. But anyway, that was a challenge.
I can imagine. And the thing is, I think, especially as a young person, and it's interesting now that, when we're both of us, I guess, at the more senior end of our careers now, certainly than we were, is that I often talk about people under the age of 30 as being young. Yeah? Do you ever find yourself in that position?
Yeah, well, I do, but we've got a young MD, Beth Rawcliffe, who is 32. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
So she brings, obviously, energy,
Yeah.
intellect, and a different way of looking at things. And I love that. I really love that.
I think that's unusual. I would say that's rare, is that one of the things that I see in a lot of businesses is as the business owners age, the people that they surround themselves with gets older as well. When I think back to when I first set up in my 20s, all of the team around me were in their late 20s. And now, when I look at the team, a lot of them have grown up with me. Does that make sense? And actually, I think what's remarkable about what you've done is you've given a huge amount of responsibility to Beth, who I know, and I think is an outstanding agent, an outstanding leader. But you've given her a lot of responsibility at what I would now consider to be a relatively young age, albeit still 4 years older than I was when I set up my business, which, pokes the hole in that. So why do you think that is? Do you think that's part of that initial experience that you had at Chancellors and Countrywide informing that view? Or what do you think?
It's a many-faceted thing. First and foremost, I am all for meritocracy. Yeah. So for me, I don't care how long you've been doing it. What I care about is what's at your centre from an integrity point of view, what drives you from a value perspective, but also how effective you are. And if you're consistently delivering and consistently striving, well, that's going to get you to the top of the pile, from my perspective, and that should be rewarded, applauded, and promoted.
Absolutely.
100%.
So if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I think it's true. Yes, you reflect on yourself. I mean, absolutely, it was the same. It was a young person's game when we were in it. But for us now, the average age is 42, and that would have been unheard of back in the day. So drawing on my own personal experience, but also recognising that experience is valuable. Of course, it's valuable, but equally, being brave, having stamina, being energetic and being driven is massively important in any business, I think, but especially our business.
I mean, it's interesting. So, as you know, I've done a lot of coaching sessions specifically on flexible fees. So getting listers to change the way that they charge, going from no sale, no fee to where no sale, no fee is one of 3 choices that they can offer a customer. And I've probably run this coaching session more times than I would like now. And I'm not saying don't enjoy it. I do. I love working with people. But but I've now delivered roughly the same material at least 50 times. And what I would say now, based on coaching north of 500 agents in this, is that the more experienced the agent is, the harder, in general, it is for them to make that change.
Old tricks.
Yeah.
Old dogs, new tricks. Yeah. Absolutely. And it is. And for us, it is true. The younger you are, the more curious and the more hungry you're going to be. Also, the less you are prepared to take risks in general. Yeah. So when you have accumulated comfort and security, there is more to give up or more to put at risk.
Of course.
So when I went to the countrywide, took on that countrywide role, it was the least profitable. It wasn't making. It was losing more money than anything else, any other business, and a few people questioned my sanity in terms of, why are you doing this? And it was quite simple for me. One, there was only one way for it to go. Absolutely. And two, I have a little phrase, if I crash and burn, I don't care as long as I learn. And I thought it was a fantastic learning opportunity for me to take it on. And I had nothing to lose. And that is a young person's perspective. They've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by having a go, and therefore will take the risks. And we need to take risks in this business.
And especially now, when you consider the age of AI that we're in, and that the way that it's done today, I think we probably both agree is not going to be the same way that it's done in 5 years' time, broadly.
Always been thus, but yes, but even more so now.
That's
absolutely.
It. And the pace of acceleration of change, and therefore our appetite for risk, our appetite for change needs to be challenged. I think it's such a wonderful thing that you've got in your business, which is that blend of experience and youth, curiosity and established practice. And if you can fuse those things together, it can be an incredibly powerful combination. So just finishing off on the countrywide piece, you mentioned when we were chatting earlier that, can it ever be done in a business of that scale, getting that consistency? What's your reflection on that now? Do you think with all of the experience you've got today, if you went in to run a 35 branch business, that you would be able to deliver consistency?
You'd never be able to deliver consistency 100% of the time. But would I be able to do it better? Absolutely, I would. Yeah.
And so let's imagine that you got parachuted in there and you're now running a 35 branch business. What are the things that you would do to try and get that collective moving in one direction?
The first thing to do is to get everybody to agree exactly what the expectations are in terms of the standards that we are working towards and want to deliver. And once you have everybody agreeing that that's the right standard, that's the right route that we need to take, then you break it down in terms of each and every function and each and every process, and what do we agree is going to be the right approach to reach that standard, to reach that goal. But you have to get buy-in. As a younger man, it would have been, you do it this way or you got and you live in the year learn, don't you?
So give me a couple of practical examples then. So you've gone in there and you're saying, I want to get buy-in. How would you actually achieve that?
So everybody wants to be, pretty much everybody wants to be part of something that is successful and is winning.
Yeah.
And if you can demonstrate or show a path, a route, to enable each and every person within that business to be part of a winning business, that's the first bit of mindset you need to change. Yeah. We are winners.
Yes.
We're not observers. We're not just participants. We are winners, and we are going to win. Right. Now you're excited. Now you're energized. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? Because this isn't going to be easy, by the way. Winning ain't easy. Yeah. Winning requires a lot of energy, heartache, blood, sweat, tears. If you've got the appetite for that and you want to be a winner, what do we need to do in terms of laying out your protocols? Yeah. So agreeing the protocols the behaviours. So it's not a manual, but it's the protocols for the expected minimum behavioural standards that each and every one can expect from each and every one.
Yeah. And behaviour is a really interesting word, isn't it? Because a lot of people have core values for a business, but actually what are the evidenced behaviours which relate to that core standard, that core value? And you know, as you say, getting people to buy into that as a collective is a really tricky thing to do, isn't it?
It is, but it isn't. So if you genuinely live and die by your core values, come what may, no matter what, because those core values can be tested at very, very difficult times, but if you always draw on them, fall back on them, and never waver from them, it starts there. Absolutely, it starts there, and it soon becomes infectious. But it can't be just a thing because it's printed or it's in a frame. It's got to be the thing that you live and die by in anything and everything that you do. It has to be that.
Can you give me an example of one core value that Jones Robinson has?
I can reel
I
can reel all 5 of them off, and it's difficult to put them in any order of importance.
So the 5 are?
So the 5 are, we deliver on our commitments. Yeah. So that for me is massive. They're all massive, but that is the big one, because that's the one that shows that you care. For me, when you're sitting in a landlord or a vendor's living room and you're laying out what the purchase or let's going to look like, you are making a promise. You're saying, this is what's going to happen. Trust me, and this is what will happen. And the thing that goes through my heart the most is when we've failed to do what we promised we would do. And more often than not, of course, it's not intentional. Things happen. Yep. You get thwarted through unintended consequences or circumstances, unforeseen. But nonetheless, you made that promise, and it hasn't been fulfilled. And I would, the thought that somebody might feel that they've been duped would be, for me, just awful. It's the worst thing. So delivering on your commitment is massively, hugely important, internally within the business, and of course externally. Yeah, in business.
This is a really nice segue into one of the key things which...
Did you want the other 4, or should we carry on?
Well,
Let's carry on.
Yeah, I'll follow this tangent. We'll definitely come back to them. So one of the things which I think is the most remarkable thing about Jones Robinson is that, and again, I hope you're happy for me to share this, but you guys sell, complete, that is, not sell, on 8 out of 10 of the properties that you bring to market. That stat, for anyone listening, is completely nuts. So I've worked with businesses. So this stat I've tracked in all of the businesses which have implemented flexible fees, because it's one of the core ingredients as to the efficacy of how well flexible fees will work. And I've worked with businesses, or at least I've engaged with businesses up in Scotland who have got completion rates in the high 70s, which again is a large portion to do with the fact that they have sellers packs, that all of the information is disclosed up front, that when a buyer has their offer accepted, it's locked in, it can't fall through. They have a hugely high completion rate. I've worked with businesses in London where their completion rate is 30%. I've worked with some businesses where their completion rate is sub 30%. My own business, Preston Baker, is in the early 60s. So 80% is ridiculous. And it was so ridiculous that when I did a little bit of engagement with yourself and Beth, I actually asked the question in 3 different ways, because when I first got the answer, I didn't want to tell you that you were wrong and that you'd misinterpreted what I was saying. So I just asked the question in 3, and every time I did the sum in a different way, I got the same answer. And I think that core value, which you've just explained to me, is probably at the nub of why you've been able to achieve that absolutely industry-leading result. So could you tell us a little bit about why you think you've got such a high completion rate?
It's a multifaceted question. The answer is rather. So there are lots of things about it for it. But it goes back to delivering on commitments in so much as you can show somebody, teach somebody how to sell, how to take a decent photograph or whatever, those things. Do they really care in their heart? Do they get a kick out of pleasing people? that you can't teach. That's it. That's something that you either have or you don't. And that's one of our little things. If you get a kick out of pleasing people, you're in the right place, because that's what we're about. So it's inviting people who do get that kick to be part of the family, and to deliver that. So, of course, we want to make money. We have to make money for the business to survive. But our purpose, our stated purpose, is to help people move on with their lives. And that's what everyone is invested in. You asked me before we started this, do I still do MPS? And I've just had a brilliant 84% MPS result come in from March. And you only achieve that if everybody understands what it is that they're striving for. And what they're striving for is to make the customer happy, and deliver on your commitments. So one of the things, for example, if I were in your living room and I was pitching to sell your property, would be, I'm going to talk to you every Tuesday afternoon, Ian, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. And that's great, isn't it? Because that keeps communication going. Boy, it's the toughest day of my week, because I know I've got to be on my game, I've got to know everything that's going on, and I've got to be proactive. So I've got to be saying, this is what's happened, but this is what's going to be happening. So I'm taking ownership of your business, and I'm not putting it on the market and hoping the market does something with it. I know it's down to me to see it through all the way, and I'm making that commitment to you.
So a couple of things. So first thing is, one of the bits which you shared with me is this idea that your commission scheme, the way that you remunerate, actually incentivizes the listers not to have withdrawals as well. You've got this sort of variable scheme. Could you explain how that works?
I heard a phrase recently, actually, which aligns with this, which is, I can't remember where I heard it. Maybe it was you. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. And so our valuers are all paid on net instructions and exchanges. So it's not enough to get the instruction. It's actually got to go the whole journey. And if it doesn't, it hurts. Because if you've taken on 20 properties, that's brilliant. But if you've lost 5, your number is 15. It's not 20. It's 15.
So you pay them on listings, but they have their withdrawals subtracted from that commission.
So it's net instructions.
Love it.
Yeah.
And that's a really unusual way of doing it. I mean, a lot of people will pay on completion, if that makes sense, but actually to pay at the front end where they can influence the activity, but have this sort of net calculation is really unusual, and obviously aligns with the value. So, because this is the other interesting thing about that one value out of the 5 that we've discussed so far, is that your compensation structure and your recruitment strategy both align with the value, which therefore means that the value broadly gets delivered. And that's super important, isn't it? And if the remuneration structure is contradictory to the value, you're going to get a mess, aren't you?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So we do pay on exchange, but half the commission that you will earn is upfront. And if you're on the front desk, it's all paid on activity. It doesn't bear in relation to what's going to happen in 5 or 6 months' time on completion.
And why is that? Why do you do that? Why do you pay on the activity rather than the outcome?
I'm a salesperson, and I've worked really hard this month. I want to see that effort rewarded straight away. I want that immediate recognition. Absolutely. I do not want to have to wait 5 or 6 months. And by the way, I'm beholden not only to, so I've done my bit on the front desk, I've got the valuation, I've booked that in, I've booked in the viewing, all of that business. I don't want to have to wait 5 or 6 months reliant on the valuer or the sales progressor or whatever to do their bit. I've done my bit. So come on.
Let's say remuneration or commission being as close to the activity as possible, I think, is a really smart way to do it, because then it means that the next phone call I make directly influences my commission in a tangible way, rather than it being, as you say, an activity I do today and then in 9 months' time I'm going to get a bit from it. And it's also that balance between team commission and individual commission. And when I interview people or when I chat to people about this, people have got very strong views in both directions on this. Where do you sit on that?
I sit on both. I sit on both
Okay,
fences.
okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So you have to manage it, and then people have to understand that there will be consequences if they're booking viewings that aren't going anywhere or valuations that aren't real valuations. So you have to manage that activity. But again, if you've got strong values and everybody understands what route they're going in, that's not a problem. But I believe 100% that team remuneration is really important, and you should have a team incentive, team goals and team targets. Absolutely. But equally, for me, it's an anathema to think that if an individual has excelled, of course they should be rewarded for excelling. Absolutely they should, 100%. So it is a combination of both. It's not one or the other.
Gotcha. So
it has to be a combination. Yes,
because that's it. Yeah, you want people working as a team and collaboratively, and I'm not getting paid on that, so I'm not doing that, which of course would contradict the value, which again is why values come in to help police this, even if you did go down an individual compensation scheme. But at the same time, making sure that the incentives and the values are aligned. I really love that. Now, I said there were two things I wanted to come back on. So the other one was about when your valuers are making that promise to the customer that every Tuesday afternoon they're going to receive a phone call. Now, some agents out there will be thinking that the frequency of communication should be driven by the individual customer. Do you have like one standard, which is every Tuesday afternoon we update all of our sellers?
Yes.
Great. Why do you do it that way?
Because I know if you don't, it won't happen. So it has to be black and white. It cannot be something that you can dip into or dip out of. So I was with an agent recently. He said, I had a fantastic day on Friday, didn't have anything in my diary. I managed to speak to all my clients. I thought, well, that's great. But if you're waiting for a gap in your diary to do that, then it's going to be sporadic and it's not going to reap the rewards that it should, or the dividends that it should. So I learned many years ago that the only way that you're going to make these things happen is if you have a sacrosanct period in the diary that happens every week without fail, then it'll get done. If you don't do that, then something else will eat into it and it just won't happen. Same with everything else in our business, by the way. You get sideswiped all the time. And therefore, having sacrosanct times within the diary, which are literally, you have to be black and white with them, cannot be. It's like prospecting, absolutely. You will find something more important to do than prospecting if you don't have respect for that time.
Yeah. And when you look at the really successful businesses which have been able to scale, think Foxtons, they have incredibly clear diary structures where at X time we're doing this and we don't have appointments before that time, and on this day we do that. And you chat to Pete Rollins and he'll tell you about his Friday meetings, where everyone got together. I don't know if they still do this, but everyone gets together, they review their results, they review their numbers. There is a structure and a cadence. And for anyone thinking about scaling their business, structure is absolutely pivotal to that, isn't it?
It is massively important, and that goes through everything that we do. Yeah. So from the minute you turn up on the doorstep, whether it's a viewing or evaluation, there needs to be structure. There needs to be an agenda. That needs to be stated. Now, right the way through to valuers meetings or whatever. Now, some people freak out about that kind of structure and go, it's very corporate. Don't do corporate. And for me, corporate shouldn't be confused with professional and disciplined. And the two are different. In my world, corporate means we don't care about the people so much, but we do care about the profit and loss. But being professional means that you conduct your business in a way that delivers the result that you want for your customer. And the only way to do that is by having an absolute iron rod structure. Having said that, for me, the analogy I use is that the structure, the protocols, the stated processes, that's your skeleton. The agenda you set, that is your skeleton. And every skeleton has to be the same. Has to have the same number of bones, has to be fitted together in the same absolute way. If it's not, it won't work. So every single one has to be that. How much muscle you put on that skeleton, how much fat you put on that skeleton, and by the way, how you dress that skeleton, that's really down to you. That's the personality. That's the thing that's going to make it magical.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the skeleton, and if you don't, you're dumb.
And would you say that that applies to everything which happens on a repeatable basis in your business?
Absolutely.
So every single process, there is a skeleton to be able to support every activity within the business, sales, lettings, the whole job.
Yeah, so we have I don't know many other businesses do, I think you're the same. We have a booklet called The Way We Are, and that talks about our culture and our core values and our stated purpose. And it recognises that customers will pay a good fee for recognised value, and for the way and for the fact that they are being dealt with respect, and that promises are being kept. But it then goes on to outline every single expected behaviour, from the minute you pick up the phone to register an applicant, to turning up for a viewing, to turning up for evaluation, key protocol, sales progression protocol, pre-tenancy inspections, you name it, the whole thing.
Fantastic. Charles, it's so interesting to chat to someone who's got such a structured approach to scaling a business. I work with a number of estate agents quite closely on like a one-to-one consultancy basis. And I would say that it is a curse of a lot of mid-sized regional independents that effectively they have a totally delegated standards culture to the individual branch managers. And they would fully acknowledge that in a whole range of activities, often all activities, it is entirely down to the branch manager to decide how the service is delivered, subject to profit being made. Do you know what I mean? In other words, effectively they will say, we will delegate, as long as you're making money, as long as you're hitting the numbers, we don't really care how you do it. And the challenge with that, which I see when I work with those businesses, is that when the ownership suddenly finds that then things aren't working the way they want, there is no culture of accountability. There is no culture of standards. There is no culture of process. So when you then try to say, okay, well, now we need to do something different, it is unbelievably hard to change people from, I can operate basically the way I want. And often the thing which gets thrown back at me is, well, isn't that a bit corporate? Exactly the phrase which you use, isn't it a bit corporate? And it's this complete misunderstanding of what corporate means. There is nothing corporate about following a process and a structure so you can give predictable outcomes for your client. That's just great business, and that's what you need to be able to scale.
Absolutely. So for me, judging people by their behaviours, not their results, is the number one thing.
Interesting.
Because I know if the behaviours are right, the results will follow. And you've been I'm sure you have, I have many times, you've had somebody in front of you who really cares, and they are working so hard, and they are following the process, they're doing everything, but the numbers just aren't coming in. I don't care. I don't care. It's okay. Your behaviours are right, it will come.
Absolutely.
And it always, without fail, it always comes. And our job as leaders is to keep the faith, and when things are rocky and it gets difficult, not to veer off. Yes, you have to make money, of course you do, but that is a result of what we do. And it's managing what we do, which is the imperative. And I understand it's easy and tempting to turn a blind eye when he's making loads of money. I mean, Christ, what? Well, that wheel will come off. That wheel will come off. Oh, and by the way, absolutely, you can't scale that business because it's down to the individual. It's not down to the culture as a whole.
Yeah. It's such an important point. And for anyone listening and, just wanting to take the golden nugget from today away, manage behaviours as your go-to, and the results will take care. 100%. Define the behaviours in conjunction with your core values about what it is which makes your business the super secret sauce, and don't accept deviation from your core standards, your core behaviours that you're looking for. If you do, you're entering a world of chaos and unpredictable behaviours, unpredictable results, and you cannot scale that business.
No, you can't. And it's really, it's such a beautiful world, I quite often joke, but it is a beautiful thing. By doing a fantastic job for somebody, being polite, delivering on your promises, and working hard, means that you get the results. Wouldn't it be awful if you had to be a bastard and not a very nice person to get the results? Yeah. It'd be an awful world. But it isn't. It's a beautiful world because by being a great human being and really want to making somebody happy, gets you the results. Fantastic.
Yeah, life is good. Yeah. Well, listen, it feels like an amazing time to take a quick break on that positive and uplifting note about how we can be great people and deliver great business. So thank you so much for the conversation so far.
You're welcome.
It was quick, it was responsive, it did the job on the tin.
Really simple, very straightforward. Amazing, mind-blowing, to be honest with you.
The thing I like best about Digital Negotiator is its ability to provide time for the team to be able to focus on the things that are going to generate the business more income.
The fact that it's text message sounds really simple, but emails just get lost now. Text messages seem to get answered really quickly.
It is going to be something that is very consistent, and I think that's one of the issues that we have within the industry is the consistency of those behaviours.
The fact that it can automate so many of the processes that are basic tasks that are still being undertaken, often by expensive frontline negotiators. It's going to free up so much more time for valuable people to do valuable jobs.
We're going to mine data with far more focus, far more diligently, and obviously the results will come from that.
I think as a business owner, you can relax that out of office hours, there is something else there capturing all those opportunities, and meaning when your team comes in the next day, they've got a degree of qualification, the diary filled, and other opportunities looked for.
The big key thing is the 65% outside of working hours and the response time thing. That's just magic.
The thing I love about it most is it's so progressive. So it's not off the shelf when we've finished. It's like we're going to make it better and better and better with feedback.
It's going to make our out of hours really effective clients. I think Digital Negotiator is definitely the way forward.
Get on board, join the party.
So Charles, you alluded in the first half to Net Promoter Score, and one of my early ventures into B2B type business was Boomerang, of which you're a customer.
Actually, that might be. When did you start that up?
2014.
Okay, so it's 12 years ago.
12
years ago, yeah.
And so Boomerang was a company which provided customer service questionnaires done over the telephone. Some brilliant people ran that business. Claire Scott, who works for me now helping run Preston Baker. Sarah Jane Taylor also ran that business for a period of time. He's an operations director here, or sales director, I should say, at Greenhouse. So could you explain what Net Promoter Score is for those people who don't know?
So it's a very simplistic but very effective way of assessing your customers, how they're feeling about you. And you basically have your promoters, who are 9s and 10s. You take away your detractors, and that effectively gives you a number. Yeah. And the magic for me is, one, it enables me to reward brilliant delivery. Yeah. So whenever we get a 9 or a 10, everybody knows about it, the 9 or 10 and who's got it. And that's fantastic. The other brilliant thing about it is that it's a bit like the canary in the cage. It's an early warning system. And when you start getting feedback that something's not quite right, yeah, it enables you to go back down the line to find out, well, which part of this process isn't working and how is that happening and how can we put that right. So we don't share all the other numbers. Yeah. But we use those numbers, a bit like the black box thinking, to ascertain what's happening, why is this customer not happy, and what can we do to ensure that it doesn't happen again. The other magic is the recognition, so thanking the customers who've given good feedback, and you flip those into reviews, which are fantastic and incredibly valuable. But for me, turning a terrorist into a promoter is really valuable. So if you've got somebody who isn't happy with you and doesn't like you terribly, there is a temptation, I think, in the world generally, is to stick your head in the sand and just say, well, that's just them. They're the odd one. They're the exception. But they're probably not. They're probably the one that's the most vocal about it. But there will be others, believe me. And the fact that we will take the time and the effort to get in touch with them and say, gosh, thank you very much indeed. This is valuable to us. What would you like to see happen in future? How should we have done that better? Turning those people into advocates is really important.
Yeah, hugely important. So a couple of things which you've drawn on there. You've talked about promoters being 9s and 10s. Can you remember what the NPS question is without trying to put you on the spot too much?
I think it's something like, out of 10, where 1 is the lowest and 10 is the highest, how likely are you to recommend me to your friends and family?
Perfect, exactly. And then the follow-up question is, why is that?
Why is that? Yeah.
So you've effectively got these 2 questions, and people either go from 0 to 6 and they're a detractor, they go to 7 to 8 and they're a passive, or a 9 and a 10 and they're a promoter. And you minus off, as you quite rightly said, those detractors from the promoters, the percentage, you get a number. So companies like Google, like Amazon, the sort of big tech companies, they all use it, and they would have a net promoter score in the high 60s, which is incredibly good. Incredibly good. Back in the day, Preston Baker, when we were doing this on our own, if we were getting 50 to 60 on exchange, I'd be really pleased with that. That would be a good score. And you mentioned in the first half of the podcast that you've got a score in March of 84.
It's just literally just came through this morning. Yeah.
And just out of interest, and again, this might be a bit techie in terms of NPS, but where are you measuring that? Is that on completion, or is that an amalgamation?
What a lovely question there
or is that an amalgamation of the different factors?
That's an important question, because you can manipulate these things, can't you? And when there are certain award schemes or other schemes that you can, as I say, you can manipulate, because you only ask the customers who have had the positive outcome, i.e. they've let their property or they've sold their property. Yeah. But what about the ones that didn't sell or didn't get let? So we every touch point we measure, from registration to the viewing, to being on the market for 6 weeks and not sold, to exchange, to withdrawn, to let.
My God! So you've got withdrawals in there as well.
I know, crikey, but that's the gold mine.
That is the gold mine.
And also the other gold mine, by the way, is the passives.
Yep.
So it's easy to recognise somebody who thinks you've done great because they give you a 9 or a 10. But the warning on that one is be careful, because they'll say something quite often. They've given you a 9 because they're generous, but there'll be something in there like, we should be easy to let's say, the viewing could be better, but apart from that, they've been brilliant and lovely.
Yeah.
And the temptation would be to ignore that, but absolutely don't. Get all over it like a rash. And obviously the detractors, very easy. They're pissed off. They don't like you. You've done something wrong to upset them. Well, they're easy to reckon. The passives are a real worry, because they don't really think you're great. They don't really think you're awful. You're just, meh. Yeah. Well, crikey, okay. So our policy is, great, thank you for our 7. That's really good. What could we have done to make it a 9 or a 10? I mean, that's a really important question for us.
And the thing is, this is this whole obsession that you've got around, constantly trying to keep your promises, that one core value that we've spoken about, 4 to go. But, that just comes through everything which you say. The other thing which other people might not have quite picked up on, but I've been involved in NPS and trying to drive customer experience through systems. I know that might sound really boring to people, but I've been in and around that for at least 12 years, is that you said, it gives you an early warning sign, a canary in the coal mine about a system. Yeah? So how do you, let's imagine that you had a poor, unsold seller. So you're getting in a particular branch, repeated scores, which are unsold sellers. Where would you be looking to see where you think the problem might be? Would you look at people? Would you look at systems? How would you square that?
You look both. really. But it's quite often the canary will squawk and it will tell you, I'm not getting viewing feedback, or she turned up and everything was lovely, but I haven't heard anything from them since. Now, hopefully our audit system will enable us to be warned of that as well. But they will tell you exactly what, it's very obvious what the issue is. No viewing feedback, not turning up on time, whatever it might be. I never hear from them. Whatever it might be, it'll be there, and it's obvious.
So effectively, that whole thing about why is that question is alerting you as to which system to look at. But you are looking very much at systems, aren't you? You mentioned about your audit mechanism. What would that look like on viewing feedback?
So we have a thing called audits, but they're not. They're not. Many people see them as, oh my, when we first introduced, oh my God, it's like Big Brother. What are you doing to me? Oh crikey, but they are very much support mechanisms. So in our world, it is so easy, isn't it, to get sideswiped, taken down another rabbit hole, whatever it might be, because something else has fallen off and you need to go off and do that.
Yeah.
Therefore, having these strict disciplines that must be followed is terribly important. Otherwise, things just they don't get done. So our support audits are there to make sure that you are speaking to your vendors every Tuesday. You are dealing with every single email that's in your email box, and you are managing your emails exactly the way you should be. Your call times are as they should be. Your viewing feedback is as it should be. Your Rightmove properties have been updated on Rightmove every 2 weeks. You're going to see your vendors every 4 weeks, and it's there to help keep you on track. And when things aren't going well, it's because people have got off track, which is so easy to do. But having these fantastic audits that keep you on track is a huge relief for people. And it's just a simple. We have a thing called opening the box. And the analogy is, if we were manufacturers of fine bone china, a good discipline would be to open the boxes maybe every 10 or 5 boxes before they go out, to make sure they're going out and there's no cracks, there's no breakages. For us, it's really important that we do open the box through MPS, through listening to client calls, through looking at how often customers are being updated all the time, because we don't want any breakages being delivered to the customer. We want the perfect package delivered, but we have to look at the systems and track back to make sure that delivery is happening.
I love it. So one of the bits which I wanted to touch on today is it's like, as you mentioned your age earlier on. You're 60 years old now. You're probably wanting at some point in the future to be able to scale back a little bit. Is that fair?
Yeah, wanting to or having to?
Well, do you want to?
Golly gosh, I love the business.
Yes,
I
can see it.
absolutely love the business, and I love the people in the business and outside of the business. So I still, some of my wife, she says, "Oh Jesus, every morning you bounce out of bed," so I've still got a hunger and a thirst for it. But I know that I can't be in the business forever. Therefore, I want to be able to manage my transition to more time, rather than it being thrust upon me and have no control over it, because it will happen one day.
Yeah.
So for me, as I'm in my 60s, the likelihood of something happening to me, which means that I've got to take more time, is much higher than it would be if I'm in my 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
So it would be myopic of me just to carry on as if nothing's going to change. It is going to change, whether I want it to or not, and I want to manage that.
And so one of the words I would use to describe you, from having known you for 12 years, is I think you are particular. Yeah?
Pedantic?
No. I think particular. I don't think you're pedantic. So I don't think you focus on stuff which isn't important, by the way. There's literally, as you went through your list of things, but I do think you are particular. And I think it's one of the reasons for your success, by the way. So,
And if they did.
does that feel right as a label?
Yeah, it's fair.
It's fair. Great. Okay.
I
So
think I've got OCD, but I just want things done properly.
correct. Exactly. But you are particular about how you want things to happen. Yeah. You have a vision, and you are very, very good at getting people to follow that. Through the audits, through the black box thinking, through the culture, through the values. All of those things are aligned to make Jones Robinson this extraordinary business, and it really is. However, when you then try and square that with someone who is also wise enough to know that your not exit, that's the wrong word, but the amount of time that you may want to commit to the business, that's either through your choice or through necessity, at some point will change. How do you then go about passing that baton partially, fully, onto Beth and other people who might come in to support the leadership team? Like, how do you think about that?
It's necessary. It's got to happen. So other labels might be control freak, by the way, and I don't think I am that. But as I say, I have standards. We have standards, and it's important that we don't turn a blind eye to those standards. So, just quick an aside from that, if I may. One of our rules is everything goes into the dishwasher. You don't leave mugs out. You don't leave cups out. You don't leave teaspoons on the training board.
Excited.
People who have been with us long enough now get it. But if you're new to our business and you get an email from me with a photograph of a teaspoon on a draining board saying this is not what we do, you'll be forgiven for thinking, oh, the OCD. But I'm not particular. But I'm not. My argument is I'm not. But I can't pretend that I haven't seen that. And it goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier. You have to live and die by it. And if I've seen it, I can't unsee it, and I can't pretend to have not seen it. I have seen it, and it has to be addressed, and it has to be dealt with. That box has to be opened, and we have to talk about it openly. What's gone wrong and what do we need to do about it? Anyway, I've lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Let's bring it back.
Oh, how do I get back? Sorry, look, okay, how do I? So you have to allow people to make mistakes. Massively important. And did I make mistakes? Oh my gosh, yes I did. And did I learn from them, crash and burn? Yes I did, but I learned, and that's the only way that people can do it. So by enabling people in the business who have got the same values, want the same outcomes, to go and do their thing, to crash and burn, but still learn, is really important. And of course, in the early days, it really, really hurt.
Yeah.
God, did it hurt. Just as it hurt not going out on every single valuation. Of course, I was the best valuer, wasn't I? Of course I was. And then when somebody else didn't get the instruction, I would have got that instruction. But of course, everybody's learning. It's a learning exercise, and that's what this is. This transition is an opportunity for people to have more headroom to grow.
Yes.
It was given to me, and it's right that every people should have that headroom to grow, rather than me putting it there. So that's how I see it.
Would you say it is fair to describe the leader as the keeper of the standards?
No.
Okay, go for it.
So the leader, it's really important that the leader recognises those that have the same values, and the leader gives those people who have the same values the opportunity to ensure that the culture and the standards are maintained throughout the business. So it's everybody's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility, but it's my responsibility to ensure that the environment is right to allow that culture, those standards, to cultivate and be sustained.
So thinking about the baton passing and how the leaders that you appoint to effectively take that job or share that job and ultimately take it. I mean, let's be clear. At some point,
I'm not going to be there.
At some point, you're going to exit.
Yeah.
How do you think about that in terms of the guidance that, as chairman, you would want to give that MD, that CEO, to be able to make sure that what has made Jones Robinson successful up to this point continues for the next 30, 40 years?
So the core values won't change. So another one is we do the right thing. And that might sound clear, but it's not. The measure of that is how would you want to be treated? How would you want your nearest and dearest to be treated? Well, that's how you treat them. It's not about profit. It's not about, can I get away with it? Will anybody ever know? Nobody's ever going to know. Absolutely not. Is it the right thing? So finding those people, when I hand over the baton, to who absolutely have that as their number one priority, for me, is the most important thing. That their integrity, their intent is without question. That's so important. But equally, they've got to have the skill sets, and equally, they've got to have a track record. Yeah. But integrity and intent are massively, massively, massively important.
Yeah. And is this something that worries you? Does it excite you? You know, the idea of this, or how do you feel about it?
Both.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, and that's how it should be, right? It's so it is exciting because it's another chapter, and again, giving people the ability to grow and develop is really exciting. I love that. That's what gives me a kick. But is there an element of trepidation? Of course there is. But you've got to make that leap. You've got to make that jump. You have to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's so commendable because you have so much energy and so much drive for the business. And some people, younger than yourself, don't have that drive and that energy and that desire and that passion, and they're fed up with it basically, and they just want out. But you've got that drive and energy, so it must be really tough to sort of square those two things, where that appetite to keep going, and at the same time, the recognition that at some point in the future that might not be the case.
Yeah, well, that's for the future, but I'm still in the business, and I'm going to be in the business, and that's great for me. But looking after its future is imperative, and that's what this process is. That's what the process is about for me. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about technology and AI and that side of things. And one of the reasons that you're here today in sunny York is as part of the product council for Greenhouse OS. And a couple of things really. So one, I'd love to know what made you decide that you wanted to get involved in helping support Greenhouse OS to fulfill its potential, and then also, I guess, your ideas on what you think AI will and won't be to estate agents. So should we start with the product council first?
Yes. So another core value, we embrace new and innovative solutions to constantly improve what we do. And you were kind enough to give us an insight in terms of what Greenhouse was about and what it can do and what the future of a estate agency might look like with Greenhouse. And that's something that really excites us. Why does it excite us? Well, I think so many different attributes and reasons, but the primary one is we can tailor that system around us and what's important to us. And being able to do that with a CRM system is unheard of. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, really.
And here's the thing, and this is one of the big things that I believe, and the whole reason that I ended up going down this journey, and the reason I wanted to do it with friends and partners, is because if today, and it was fascinating to hear you removing the computers in, whenever it was.
I can tell you what. I can tell you for why.
Well, I think I might know, but let's put a pin in that, and we'll circle back round. Is that if in those days, we used to send the feed to Rightmove, and I guess that was even pre-Rightmove, because that was 2000, Rightmove came about. But effectively, if I go back to like early 2000s, we'd send the feed to Rightmove with the properties on it in the early days, and we'd do an email match from the CRM, and that was basically the service that we delivered digitally. The rest of it was delivered by print, it was delivered in person, it was delivered face-to-face, it was delivered over the phone. That was how we delivered our service to our customers, and that's still very true today. And that percentage has grown, hasn't it, from whatever that was, let's call it 5% in the early 2000s, and it's probably now 20, 30, 40%.
Yeah.
Is it that sort of?
Could be even half, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be even half. So the point is that if today it's half, and would you also agree with the statement that in 2 years' time it's going to be higher than it is today?
Yes.
So therefore, if it might tip over half of what we do is going to be digital. If your solution is the same as everyone else's, and we all deliver effectively half of our service or more through third-party suppliers, which we've stitched together, then we become a commodity. We become the same as everyone else.
Yes, vanilla. Yeah.
Totally vanilla. And then the consumer...
We already are, by the way.
Well,
As an industry.
But then we become a commodity, which you can only determine one agent from another based on price. And so I think what is really exciting about the technology now is that the possibilities of what you can now do are just mind-bending. They are so vast, so wide, and that's the reason to have control, isn't it?
Of course it is. Absolutely you need to have control, because so many of our businesses in our industry are run by their CRM system. I mean, I can remember speaking to somebody who, I won't mention the system, but just said, well, we don't work that way anymore because the system doesn't do that, so we do that. And it's like, well, hey, hang on a minute. No. You've got to do that. Just because the system won't do that, you've still got to do that because it's really important. And that's just like why?
But this is what's different about you, Charles, compared to a lot of other industry leaders. So you have decided purposefully how you want Jones Robinson to operate. And that's not about any piece of technology. That's about your core values. And you said, I want to be able to deliver this. Now, I'm agnostic to a certain extent about how that's delivered, or I'm flexible about how that's delivered, but this is how I want it to run. And therefore, for businesses like you, it's perfect, isn't it? Because you start with the principles and then you say, well, what are the tactical elements which spin off of that?
Yeah, okay, what do I need to do to enable that? But it's having your eyes firmly set on the outcome. And the best of outcomes, by the way. The best, what does brilliant look like? It looks like that. Well, okay, what could we do? And to be thwarted at the first step because your CRM system says is
and we've all banged our head into that wall, haven't we?
Well, you end up with a spreadsheet for this, an app for that, this for that, and it's just what the is going on here?
It's insane.
Back in the old days, your system could email out all your properties. Now it can't do that anymore. Oh no, you can't do that anymore. You've got to have somebody else to set another partner to be able to do that. It's like, what? But yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? And when we sort of start to imagine, I guess, the future, what would you say is the one thing which in 3 years' time, which is a habit today, that estate agents won't be doing?
Gosh, there's lots of that. I would say the creative brochure writing probably will be the one thing. There'll be lots of other things, the way we engage with customers at the get-go and what have you. So first registration, that kind of thing. But there will still be some in 2 or 3 years' time who'll still be doing it that way. I think brochure writing,
that'll be gone.
That'll be gone already.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. And obviously tools like Greenhouse's brochure writer can help people with that immediately. Okay, great. Final thing to sort of chat through then is lettings is a very important part of your business. And renters' rights, we're recording this in early May, so it's just happened.
For 5 days old.
What's your take on the opportunities for agents of renters' rights?
Well, it's a brilliant opportunity to engage with your landlords and explain to them what the consequences of the legislation are. And we've had some brilliant feedback from the webinars that we've been doing with our landlords and from people who aren't our landlords but perhaps wish they were because they're not getting that communication. So it's a brilliant opportunity to educate them, but also to help landlords navigate their way through and avoid very difficult situations. And a good letting agent, a good property manager should be doing that. and keeping their landlords out of trouble. And it's not difficult to do, but it does require energy. It does require engagement and reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important. Good. Well, Charles, you've been incredibly generous with your time. So I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time to come and chat to me today. There are so many things that estate agency leaders can learn from you in terms of your structured, disciplined approach, informed and driven by core values to create a world-class business. And again, if anyone hasn't done this, I would encourage them to count up the number of instructions that they had last year, count up the number of exchanges that they had last year, and divide those two numbers, and that is your completion rate. And if you're doing 52 to 54%, that's bang on, industry average. What is that number? Because at Jones Robinson, these ideas and these principles that you've applied are achieving 80%, and I have literally never seen a business as high as that. So a huge congratulations to you and all of your team, Charles. You're running an incredible business, and it's been great to chat to you today. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Cheers.